Call to order. The joint meeting of the City Council, Successor Agency to the Redevelopment Agency, Public Finance Authority, the Public Utility Authority, Housing Authority, Paris Joint Powers Authority, and Paris Community Economic Development Corporation of the City of Paris. This meeting will also be conducted as a remote meeting in accordance with AB 361 and Resolution Number 585. This is today, Tuesday, January 25th, 2022, and the call time is 6:39. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Nava.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Corona.
Present.
Councilmember Rabb. Councilmember Rogers.
Here.
Mayor Vargas.
Present. Thank you. For those who are on Zoom, if you'd like to make a public comment on the Zoom screen, please click on the Participants button on the bottom of your screen. A list of participants will appear on the right side of the screen. At the bottom of the list, please click on the gray Raise Hand button. This will signal to the host that you would like to provide public comment, and you will be added to the list. If you are using Zoom on your smartphone, tap on your screen. A new screen will pop up with the list of participants. Look for the raised hand button on the screen. And for those of you who are traditionally calling on the phone line, just simply hit *9 on your keypad to signal that you would like to make a comment. That being said, we're going to move on to item 3, which is our invocation, which will be led by Pastor Terry L. Wells from the First Baptist Church of Paris. Please stand and then remain standing for item 4, which will be our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilwoman Nava.
Let us pray. Oh, gracious and most heavenly Father, we come to you right now and just thank you for another day, another opportunity. We invoke and call your presence to this city council member meeting. Father, we know that you are a God of peace and of goodness and gentleness. So, Father, we ask that you will have your presence. Bless the mayor, every council member, everybody that's giving a presentation, public comment, those that viewing us online. Allow everyone, Heavenly Father, that participate, allow them communication to be concise, allow it to be clear, but allow it to meet the compassion of the people. Allow every decision that shall be made or voted on or considered, allow it be not for one person, but for all the people and the residents of Paris. Allow this city to continue to be the example when the council members and the community works together, listens to each other, works together, and labor together. We thank you for what you're going to do. Just allow this to be a perfect peace. Allow this to be a meeting that continues to set the example for rest to emulate. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Wells. Please join me as we salute our nation's flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Item 5 is report on closed session items. Mr. Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor. The council met in closed session to discuss the one item noted on the agenda, gave direction to staff, but no reportable action was taken tonight.
Thank you. Item 6 is presentation and announcements. 6A is a presentation of the proclamation in recognition of the International Mother Language Day. This will be presented by the Director of Community Services, Sabrina Chavez.
Hello, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. So today before you is the city proclamation for the International Mother Language Day. We do have here representatives from the Bangladesh community to receive the proclamation. Mayor, would you like for me to read the proclamation?
I have the language here. I'll read
Okay.
it off.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to read the proclamation, and then we will come down. The three of us are up here, and we'll do a photo op with the members that are here to receive the proclamation. So the proclamation reads as follows. International Mother's Language Day. Whereas a mother language is a vital part of an individual's life and an integral part of human development and gives the ability to communicate within ethnic groups in a more distinct and subtle way that allows to transport feelings, expression, experiences, and thoughts more clearly. And whereas with the advancements of globalization process, some languages are fading or disappearing, and other cultural diversities are being lost. The United Nations General Assembly established an International Mother's Language Day to promote the preservation and protection of all languages used by peoples of the world. And whereas the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, in its resolution further said, languages are the most powerful instruments of preserving our tangible and intangible heritage. All moves to promote the dissemination of mother tongues will serve not only to encourage linguistic diversity and multilingual education, but also to develop fuller awareness of linguistic and cultural traditions throughout the world, and to inspire solidarity based on understanding, tolerance, and dialogue. And whereas a worldwide observance held annually on February 21st was chosen in recognition of the anniversary of the day when the Bangladeshi people sacrificed their lives to protect their native tongue. And it is being celebrated every year all over the world by people of different origins and languages. Now therefore be it resolved, the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Paris, California, proclaims February 21st as International Mother's Language Day, and call upon our residents to come together to celebrate the diverse and rich languages in our own community and help to preserve them for the world's future. Thank you. Let's go down, we'll take a picture.
Our next generation realize us. Absolutely. Will not will be here 20 years, 40 years, 50 years. Our generation will be said, like we said, people give it life, sacrifice life for their language. So one day we will hear, but our generation.
Okay, so please introduce all yourselves, because I don't want to mess up any names here. You are the members of the Bangladesh communities from within our city of Paris, and I would like to introduce you to the public.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mohammed Rahman, and I live the wonderful city of Paris last 12 years. And I buy a house here, and I'm proud to be citizen of Paris.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is our community honor that we are here today to be proclaimed that 21st February is the International Mother Language Day, and we are so happy and fortunate that we live in this city almost 20 years. And I have seen so much diversity, so much improvement, and thank you, Mayor, and all the council members, and all the community members that we come together and make this city great. Thank you so much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shahid Ahmed. I work for the state of California for the Department of Transportation, and I love this city. A lot of time they told me Caltrans is very far away from here, but I don't want to leave this place. I love so much. My kids were raised in this city. They were at the top of the list. One of my daughter created the youth education. What was that program? Number 7 agenda. That was created by my daughter Shira Ahmed from Rancho Verde. So that's why we can't leave this city. It's such a wonderful place. So Mr. Mohammed, he brought up that why not we do something for the city and bring out this 21st February, this wonderful events, and we'll be welcoming all of the Paris and outside communities every languages, and we'll have program on those. Thank you very much.
Are you smiling?
With the mask? With the mask? Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. See you in February. Yes.
So just for clarification for the public, we all are here. We have our Councilman Rab is in his city office zooming in, and Councilwoman Rogers is zooming in from her residence, but we are all here together. Okay. Moving on to item 7 is our Youth Advisory Committee communications. This will be given by Jasmine Lomeli, our Vice President.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, and City staff, good afternoon. I am YAC's Vice President Jasmine Lomeli. Today I will be providing an update on YAC's latest and upcoming events. To begin, YAC meetings will continue to be held virtual until February 1st due to the surge of the COVID cases. Next, YAC will be taking in the annual Snow Day on Saturday, January 29th. YAC will participate in Snow Day this year by assisting in the snow pit, sledding area, and the arts and crafts table. Moreover, the following park cleanup will occur Saturday, February 19th at Cooper Creek. Check-in is at 7:30 a.m. Our goal is to clean and make the parks around Paris more enjoyable for our families. Also, YAC offers community service hours for all volunteers. In addition, YAC would like to bring awareness to Teen Driving Month. Unfortunately, teens are more likely to be involved in lethal car accidents. Teens tend to speed and avoid seatbelts, leaving little spaces between cars and distracted by phones. It is vital to speak to our young and loved ones about the importance of practicing and safe driving. Finally, YAC would like to remind everyone to follow us on social media at Paris YAC for more updates and upcoming events. For more information on YAC, or any events discussed today, feel free to dial Statler Youth Center at 951-435-7230, extension 400. YAC would like to remind everyone to wash your hands frequently.
Thank you, Jasmine. Can you, is there a time set for the Copper Creek cleanup?
Yeah, check-in starts at 7:30 a.m.
7:30.
And pretty sure by usual park cleanups, they start at 8 when we actually start cleaning.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 8, public comments. This is a time when any member of the public may bring up any matter to the attention to the mayor and the city council that is within our jurisdiction that is not on the agenda. So any item that's not on the agenda, we will limit to 3 minutes. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir. David Schwegel.
Good evening, Paris City Council. My name is David Schwegel with Phelps Engineering Services in Reno, Nevada, and I'm here tonight on behalf of a couple of traffic studies that I worked on when I was with my prior employer, the RK Engineering Group. The first being the Citrus Avenue traffic review on Citrus Avenue between Cherry Tree Lane and Medical Center, and the second being the traffic calming traffic review studies in various locations throughout the city of Paris. So for the Citrus Avenue traffic calming traffic review studies, we looked at pedestrian crossings across Citrus Avenue, and I'm sorry to report to you that the engineer in training working under my direction willfully omitted 3 critical photos talking about the types of rectangular rapid flashing beacons to use versus not use. And that's based on my firsthand experience serving as the Fresno County traffic engineer. So I coordinated with Stuart of Inner West Group, and I took it upon myself to replace those 3 photos that were willfully omitted by the engineer in training in violation of the Professional Engineers Act. In a nutshell, when you order rectangular rapid flashing beacons, make sure that they have the LED array. Do not order those rectangular rapid flashing beacons that have the perimeter lighting around the sign. And be very careful with the use of in-pavement lighting. It's only applicable for certain applications such as 25 mile an hour and lower approach speeds. So again, I really apologize that happened. And then on the traffic calming traffic review studies in various locations, we followed the directions of submitting 6 reports. I had personally submitted a 7th report, and even though my traffic stamp was on the plans, the higher-ups and lower-ups overrode my professional engineering judgment and told me not to include that 7th report that ties all 6 of those studies together and provides success stories and lessons learned on traffic calming in various locations. So it has definitely been a pleasure working with the City of Paris, and I wish you folks tremendous success moving forward. And please accept my sincere apologies. And I will continue to coordinate with Stuart, and I will also give you my contact information. And if you have any questions regarding the types of rectangular rapid flashing beacons to use versus not, let me know, because I was sorry to find out right after the traffic calm and traffic review studies that the city did, in fact, order one of those with the perimeter lighting that I recommended against. So look for some follow-up correspondence from me. Again, my name is David, D-A-V-I-D, Schwegel, S-C-H-W-E-G-E-L, spells like Schwejo, rhymes with bagel, and I'm with Phelps Engineering Services in Reno, Nevada. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Dave. Did you have a question for clarification?
For clarification, are you saying that the one who did this, he accidentally or
He
on
willfully
purposely?
omitted that, and unfortunately, the president of RK Engineering Group is not a professional engineer, and his conduct is in violation of Board Rule 475 for the professional engineers, land surveyors, and geologists, and I have made that known to the American Society of Civil Engineers, Region 9 Board of Governors, as well as the Professional Engineering Board.
All
So,
right, David, thanks. I need you to follow up with our engineers so we can.
With pleasure.
He can give us an update.
glad to help.
Thank you. Anybody else, Madam Clerk?
That is all.
IT, do we have anybody?
Yes, Mayor, we have Janet Burnaby.
Say that again.
Yes, Mayor, we have Janet Burnaby.
She's here, actually present,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Are you Janet?
Yes. Hi, good evening. Good evening, esteemed Paris City Council members, community. Thank you for allowing me to have the opportunity to speak today. My name is Janet Bernabe, and I have been a resident for the City of Paris for over 25 years. I am speaking today in favor of business item 12A on the agenda.
Okay, Janet,
Yes.
public comments for that will be during that time. If you're
Okay.
not going to be here, you're welcome to speak, but this is generally for any item that's not on the agenda.
Okay.
So you wanna
wait,
reserve
what
and
time
wait?
would that be?
I can't tell you a specific
Okay,
time, but once
got
we
it.
get there, we'll call you back up at that time. Anybody else, Madam Clerk? Or IT?
No, that is all.
IT?
That's all, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 9 is our approval of minutes. 9A is consideration to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on January 11th, 2022 of the City Council Successor Agency to the Redevelopment Agency's Public Finance Authority, Public Utility Authority, and the rest that's listed on our agenda. If there are no comments or questions by the council, I'll entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion by Councilwoman Nava. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Corona. Please call a roll call vote.
Councilmember Nava,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Corona,
Yes.
Councilmember Rabb,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes,
5-0, motion approved.
thank you. Item 10 is consent calendar. Consent calendar items are normally enacted in one motion. The mayor or city council may remove a consent calendar item for a separate action. We will have public comment and limit to 3 minutes. Does anybody wish to pull anything from the agenda? Don't see anybody. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Prior to that, though, Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
No, sir.
Thank you. IT?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Corona, second by Councilwoman Nava. Please call roll call vote.
Councilmember Nava?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Corona?
Yes.
Councilmember Rabb?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes,
5-0, motion approved.
thank you. Item 11 is public hearings. 11A is to be consideration to adopt proposed resolution numbers next in order regarding annexation of DPR 07-0119 to the City Maintenance District's DPR 07-0019, which is located at the northeast corner of Ryder Street and Webster Avenue. This item will be presented by our city engineer, Mr. Stuart McKibben.
Good evening, Mayor, honorable council members. Tonight's presentation, as usual, will be presented by Dulce Diaz, and she's online somewhere in the Ethernet there.
Okay, Dulce, you got the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. DPR 070119 is the construction of a 1,189,664 square foot industrial building. As a condition of approval, the project is required to annex into the city's street maintenance district to pay for the benefits and annual costs associated with the property once it is developed. The proposed maximum annual assessment for the project is $52,655.18. On November 30th, the City Council approved resolutions initiating the annexations of this project and set tonight as the public hearing for those annexations. At this time, staff is asking the mayor to open and close the public hearings. Following the hearings, the clerk is to open the ballots. There is one ballot per district. If there is no majority protest, then the City Council can consider the approval of the resolution confirming these annexations. Unless there are any questions, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dulce. Council, anybody have any questions? Mayor, Councilman Rabb?
Just clarification for the people on Zoom. This project has already been developed. We're merely annexing into various districts to provide financing.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. This time, we're going to open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask the city clerk to open up the 3 ballots.
City of Paris annexation of DPR 07-0119, Maintenance District number 84-1. The ballot is marked yes. City of Paris annexation of DPR 07-0119 to benefit zone 160, landscape maintenance district number 1. The ballot is marked yes. City of Paris annexation of DPR 07-0119 to benefit zone 122, flood control maintenance district number 1. The ballot is marked yes.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'll call for a motion on the resolution. I have a motion by Councilwoman Nava. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Corona. Please call roll call vote.
Councilmember Nava?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Corona?
Yes.
Councilmember Rabb? Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. 11B is consideration to adopt proposed resolution number next in order, adopting mitigated negative declaration number 2367, and approving general plan amendment number 21-05173, updating the housing element 2021 through 2029, safety element, and adopting a new environmental justice element. This item will be introduced by our Development Services Director, Mr. Kenneth Fung.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. This item will be presented by Alexa Washburn. She's the Senior Vice President for National Corp. She has 20 years of experience in overseeing housing elements and overseeing affordable housing development. I just want to let you know she took the lead in adopting the city's last housing element in 2013. And then the presentation she'll provide will kind of go through the three elements. We've been working on this document for the past 3 years. Not 3 years, I'm sorry, the past year. The document that is presented to you is a result of the feedback from 2 Planning Commission workshop and 3 council meetings to kind of vet through the opportunity sites. With that said, I'm going to introduce Alexia to do the presentation. Unfortunately, she can't be here just with COVID-related reasons, so that's why she's doing the presentation via Zoom.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Kenneth, for the nice introduction. Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Again, my name's Alexa Washburn. I am here tonight with my colleagues, Sarah Walker, Aaron Fanasteel, and Monica Guerra to adopt the updated housing element, the safety element, and the new environmental justice element. Over the last year, the Focus General Plan update has been completed through 3 phases. In the beginning of 2021, we conducted a lot of community outreach to identify needs and goals, really based on resident and stakeholder feedback. And we spent that time to prepare the draft technical sections for each element. We then completed the public review drafts of each element in September, and the housing element was submitted up to the state in October for compliance review. And the state took their 60-day review period and provided us with requested revisions in December. We have revised the housing element and resubmitted it to the state and are expecting a compliance letter this first quarter of the year. Now, while the housing element was under review by the state, the required CEQA, environmental analysis, was prepared. So we are currently in the adoption and certification phase, and we're here tonight for your approval. So let's dive into the housing element. So as a quick reminder, the housing element is one of 8 state mandated elements of a city's general plan. Now, it's the only element that requires review and certification by a state agency. That state agency is the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD. Now, the housing element is also the only general plan element that is required by law to be updated every 8 years. So the city is now updating its housing element for the 6th planning period, which covers the years 2021 through 2029. So we've discussed this in previous workshops on the housing element, but what really drives the update process is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA. And the RHNA begins up at the state, where HCD allocates units to the Regional Association of Governments. So for Southern California, this entity is SCAG. SCAG then allocates the units to each jurisdiction within the SCAG region. So for the 2021 to 2029 planning period, SCAG and HCD allocated to Paris a total of 7,805 units across the 4 income categories as shown on this slide, which range from very low income all the way up to above moderate. And the city is expected to show how they will accommodate their fair share allocation through their housing plan, which is the policy portion of the housing element, as well as through identification of appropriate zone sites or the sites inventory. Now for the housing plan, I'm going to quickly go through the final housing goals for the 2021 to 2029 planning period. With goal 1, that is focused on enhancing the quality of existing neighborhoods, primarily through maintenance and preservation while minimizing displacement impacts. A few programs in place to further this goal include funding the code enforcement activities. You also have your city's neighborhood preservation program and your successful senior home repair program. The second goal is to assist in the development of housing for all residents of all income levels. So this goal really focuses on ensuring that there's adequate sites that are zoned appropriately to accommodate the city's RHNA throughout the entire planning period. It also encourages lot consolidation and marketing city-owned surplus properties for the development of affordable housing. The third goal includes removing or mitigating constraints in the maintenance, the improvement, or development of affordable housing. And this goal includes programs focused on modifying development standards to facilitate affordable housing, also expediting and prioritizing proposed affordable housing developments, primarily through streamlined processing, and then also establishing objective design standards in compliance with Senate Bill 35. And the fourth goal is to provide equal housing opportunities and affirmatively further fair housing for all residents, including those with special needs. And to implement this goal, the city does have a few ongoing programs, including rental assistance, homelessness assistance in partnership with SWAG, and funding services and workshops through the Fair Housing Council of Riverside County. And then finally, goal 5 provides for increased home ownership opportunities in the city. A few programs that you already have in place to further this goal include providing financial assistance and education about the home buying process, working with Habitat for Humanity in the development of single-family homes for workforce and lower-income households. Now, the other way that the city is expected to address the RHNA is by identifying adequately zoned sites to provide a variety of housing opportunities. Now, given the number of physical and environmental constraints in the city, our search for sites really focused on the downtown and the major corridors. So with council input, city staff selected 12 opportunity areas that can be developed or redeveloped with residential uses. So areas 1 through 11 are residential and commercial areas that would have the housing overlay applied at a future date. And then area 12 includes a selection of vacant parcels that are at least a ½ acre in size within the downtown specific plan area. Now, this table shows by income category how the city plans to accommodate the RHNA allocation of 7,805 units. So we're first allowed to take credit for any projects under construction, permitted, or in permitting currently. And so the city has just over 4,000 credits, mostly towards your above moderate income RHNA. So we first reduced the RHNA by any projects that are in the pipelines. You see that 4,000 credit. Then we estimated the number of accessory dwelling units that are likely to occur during the planning period, which was estimated to be 5 annually. Then we show the land inventory. which totals approximately 5,672 units. So as shown in the bottom row, the city is more than able to accommodate your RENA, and you even have a little bit of surplus of sites should some of the sites not be redeveloped or be redeveloped with a different use during the planning period. So you've got a little buffer there. All right, so with the creation, so a new department up at HCD, they're getting real serious here. They now created an accountability and enforcement department at HCD. And the state now has dedicated staff focused on holding jurisdictions accountable for their housing element commitments. And violations of these state laws may lead to consequences, including revocation of housing element certification and/or referral to the Attorney General. Now, one of the newer repercussions that we're seeing of not having a certified element are monthly fines. But with the stick approach, there's also the carrot that the state dangles, and there's many benefits to having a certified housing element. That's timely access to state infrastructure bonds for capital improvement projects, as well as CDBG and home federal funding. It also, having a certified element, will ensure that developers and the city are eligible for various state funding, such as the cap and trade funding, or ASIC, Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities funding, to build affordable housing. Also achieving a jobs housing balance, reducing traffic impacts, retaining a local employment base. You know, this plan also allows you to direct growth in the community, planning for higher density in appropriate areas while preserving the single family residential areas. And then lastly, of course, you know, avoiding lawsuits or having your general plan deemed invalid or inadequate. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the safety element. The safety element is required to comply with recent changes to the California Government Code. So since 2014, new requirements pertaining to wildfire, climate adaptation, and evacuation have been adopted by the legislature. So to ensure that the safety element is updated regularly, Senate Bill 1035 now requires an update to the safety element at the same time that your housing element is updated. So you should anticipate both a housing element update and a safety element at the same time as you move forward in future updates. Now, as part of this update, new or revised goals and policies, as well as implementation actions, were developed to address natural as well as human-caused hazards that may affect the city. And the following goals were developed to address emergency response, wildfire, and climate adaptation, which, along with the corresponding goals and implementation actions, really ensure that the latest compliance with the government code. Now, due to the presence of very high fire hazard severity zones within the city, the safety element update was required to be reviewed by CAL FIRE staff. So this review focused on the requirements under Senate Bill 1241, which necessitated additional policies and implementation actions. And then upon completion of CAL FIRE review, the updated element was reviewed and approved by the California Board of Forestry and Fire Protection in December. And they commended the city for the quality of the element and the responsiveness during the review process. So now the safety element update is before you tonight for adoption. And now let's move on to the environmental justice element. This is a new element. So the city's update to two general plan elements, that's the housing element and the safety element, directly triggers a new state requirement to create what's called an environmental justice element. And through Senate Bill 1000, which passed in 2016, all jurisdictions in California with designated disadvantaged communities are now required to incorporate environmental justice policies into their general plans. So there's a few requirements here. The environmental justice element must, number one, identify issues that impact the community. This includes pollution exposure, food access, public facilities, housing, physical activity. Number 2, we're required to engage the community early on and throughout the entire process. And then number 3 is prioritize improvements and programs that address the needs of disadvantaged communities. So using data to identify the various disadvantaged communities in the cities, and you'll notice these are highlighted in the darkest shade of brown on this map. And then the numbers refer to census tracts within the city. So these communities that are impacted by environmental justice, poor health indicators and pollution, such as ozone, hazardous waste, solid waste sites. And these pollutants and their proximity to disadvantaged communities really put residents at a higher risk of negative health impacts. So as such, there's really a lot of opportunities here to continue improving health for the residents of the city. And I know the city has really taken a lead in the whole healthy communities movement, so this aligns nicely. So the goals and policies outlined in the environmental justice element really provide a framework for key priorities in the city. And the element includes 8 goals. I'm just going to share a few examples of the types of opportunities the city has to improve the quality of the physical environment for all of the residents and build towards a healthier community. So for instance, the first 3 goals here are really aimed at promoting transparent governance, engaging diverse members of the community in decision-making, supporting opportunities for community leadership, and investing in culturally competent community. The next set of 3 goals here really focus on access to healthy food, safe bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, as well as access to affordable housing, aligning with the housing element. So given the existing work that the city's public health division has done and the strong partnerships that you have with the Riverside University Health System, the city is well positioned. You're already well positioned to strengthen existing programs and leverage investments to improve access to healthy food. And then on the active transportation or mobility front, the city has your existing active transportation plan, which provides a blueprint for the type of investments that need to be prioritized in the city to ensure that there's a safe and there's an active transit and transportation network. And then finally, ensuring that all residents have access to safe and affordable homes. I mean, this is a critical need in the city, particularly for renters. And of course, this is tied to and consistent with the housing element. And then finally, we have public infrastructure and facilities improvements. And this also includes active transportation, quality parks and amenities, streetscape improvements, think lighting, shade. You can not only beautify the city, but also transform existing perceptions about community safety. And so these last 2 goals provide an opportunity to partner with local and regional agencies, including local law enforcement and regional planning agencies, in order to both leverage resources, increase civic pride, and really build momentum across those shared interests. All right, so let's talk about next steps. So while the safety and environmental justice elements are complete, and once adopted, the city is going to continue to work with HCD to obtain a compliant housing element. So as I said earlier, the housing element was resubmitted up to the state last week, and we requested an expedited review with the goal of obtaining compliance ahead of the mid-February deadline. So it's important to note, as of January 24th, within the entire SCAG region, including 197 jurisdictions, only 4 jurisdictions are in compliance, and only 2 are adopted and in compliance. So we're well ahead of the game here. So with that, this just talks about next steps, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kenneth to walk through the recommendation of staff tonight. And then again, my team and I are here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Alexa. I just want to note that we will be working with HCD to obtain certification by February 12th. If not, there's some things that we can take care of. If we don't meet the February 12th, we have to update the housing opportunity site, which we're working on at this moment. So there's some additional flexibility. Just want to mention that. With that said, staff recommends that the council adopt Resolution 22-01, recommending the City Council adopt mitigated negative declaration 2367, approving General Plan Amendment 21-05173, updating the housing element, safety element, and adopting a new environmental justice element. And I'm here along with Alexa and her team to answer any specific questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Director Fung. Council, anybody have any questions or comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay, thank you. Great presentation, a lot of information going on. Specifically, what is changing from the last thing that we adopted? Because it sounds like we adopted it, and then they didn't improve it, so it came back. So, like, what are the actual changes?
Alexa, can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, I'm going to actually turn it over to Sarah. Sarah Walker has been the day-to-day project manager. I think you're referring to the last workshop, right, that we had with council where we focused in on the sites, and then Sarah can talk about some of the feedback that we got from HCD and just minor modifications that were made. So Sarah?
Yeah, so we submitted it to the state and they reviewed it for 60 days. And then as part of our comment letter, there were a few items that they wanted us to revise. Predominantly, they wanted us to look at some of the constraints that exist in terms of the code and how the process of approving development occurs in the city. Those are noted in the programs under Goal 3. I believe it's 3.1, it's the policy action that removes constraints. And then they also wanted us to look at a few things in affirmatively furthering for housing, ensuring that the programs really further, and implement the goal of affirmatively furthering for housing, ensuring that there isn't a concentration of poverty in the city. And then the last piece was the sites inventory. And so one of the things that we heard from them is that they really wanted us to go parcel by parcel and to assign affordability and really look at the feasibility of development on those sites. And so that is what we did. And that's why you may notice that the sites within the downtown have been thinned significantly, because a number of the parcels in the downtown were less than half an acre. And that's kind of the default size for HCD. It started getting very complicated when we had to justify hundreds of parcels that were under half an acre.
Okay, thank you. I saw the slide with the environmental justice map. And, some areas are obviously more disadvantaged than others. Are they recommending us to not build in those areas? Is that what the recommendation was?
No, that wasn't the recommendation.
No? Okay.
Yeah, we can still build in those areas.
Okay,
Yeah.
but just have mitigating factors in those areas, or is that?
Yeah, so interestingly, those areas do correspond with what the state defines as lower resource areas. And the low resource areas are determined by a number of factors having to do with things like pollution, but also access to jobs, access to amenities, school scores. And so it's not that we can't build there, particularly because the city of Paris has so many constraints environmentally between the airports and the MHSCP and all of those areas. What they wanted in terms of, I think that is relevant because the programs need to ensure that funding and efforts to improve those areas are in place. So aligning the housing element and the EJ element were important to ensure that we're not continuing patterns of segregation and poverty.
Okay, thank you. And, for a question for Kenneth or whoever else could, Mr. Fung, do we have an environmental justice element in our master plan?
We're adopting it now. We didn't have one before.
Okay. So if this passes, we're doing it right now.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mayor, I have a question, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My question is, given that the accountability team is new for this go-around, have they spelled out what the repercussions will be if the 7,000 plus units aren't met?
Alexa can elaborate further, but there's some repercussion, whether they'll follow through with it or not, or what kind of measures they'll take, is unknown at this point. But as she mentioned, there's only 4 cities that have an adopted document.
Yeah, that is correct. It is a new division up at the state, but they haven't said exactly. They list some potential consequences. We have heard of a city getting fined. That's why I put that monthly fine in there. But it's still to be determined, right? We'll see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
Yes, sir. Joe Valdez.
Okay, Joe, you got the floor. You got 3 minutes. If you're there and you can hear me, you're muted. Mr. Valdez, are you online? All right, he's not acknowledging. Anybody else, IT?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Valdez, I'm gonna give you one more shot. Are you online? Can you hear me? You need to unmute yourself if you're there. Okay. We're gonna move on. We're gonna close public hearing. And I'll call for a motion on the resolution.
Approve.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Nava. You want to second that, Councilman Rab? Second by Councilman Rab. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Nava?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Corona?
Yes.
Councilmember Rab?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 12 is business items. 12A is consideration and discussion regarding potentially adopting an industrial projects moratorium. This will be introduced by Director of Development Services, Mr. Kenneth Fung.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Thank you again to have a presentation before you. On December 14th of last year, the Council requested a discussion of a potential industrial moratorium. The purpose or framework of that moratorium would be that it would apply to industrial project over 50,000 square feet. And while this moratorium would be in place, the request was that staff would look into air quality, truck traffic, and health risk assessment with industrial developments. In staff's preparation for this discussion, staff did a survey of several cities that have implemented or did implement or currently have a moratorium. Staff looked at the city of Chino. They started a moratorium in December of last year. They've chose not to continue that moratorium. But when they did have that moratorium, it was just to not have no new application, to accept no new application. But they also exempted projects that were deemed complete to continue that process for review. The second city we looked at was the city of Colton. They did a 45 days, and they followed that by another 10-month extension for the moratorium. That right now is scheduled to expire on March of this year. Their scope is that no new application, but they also exempted formal applications that are already in process to allow them to continue through the entitlement process and approval if necessary. The third city we looked at, it was Jurupa Valley. They did 45 days, they did a 10-month extension, and then they did recently a 12-month extension, which would mean that the moratorium would not expire until January 22nd, 2023, next year. The scope of the moratorium, it was just no new application for a warehouse that's outside the heavy industrial area or in a specific plan. Those projects would be allowed to continue as long as there was a specific plan where it was in the heavy industrial. They also allowed existing application for warehouse in the heavy industrial zone and a specific plan to continue with the approval process, but those that were in kind of less light industrial, they could not continue on. As for the city of Riverside, they did 45 days, they extended 10 months. It did already expired. The reason they did that was that because they had a specific plan in place, or they were processing it, and they wanted to just put a little hold on it while they kind of adopted the specific plan. And so once the specific plan got adopted, they just continued that process and they continued the application. Staff did prepare some maps highlighting zone that's land is zone industrial, just to kind of give the council an assessment of where we're at with projects in the city. This moratorium would not apply to vested projects, and it would not apply to project with a development agreement that's already in place, as long as they can comply with the components of the development agreement. And so just real quickly, our industrial developments in the city, we look back through our record, as far as 2005 and probably even beyond, all the sites that you see that's industrial now has been industrial since back in 2005 or even earlier. And then in regards to the approval process, they're typically approved by the Planning Commission unless there is a zone change or some sort of amendment to our circulation element. Otherwise, it typically does not get elevated to the council unless it gets appealed. Otherwise, our code allows the Planning Commission to approve. So most of these projects have been approved by the Planning Commission. So this exhibit here, I'm going to show the north, central, and south. It just kind of highlights projects that have that's already existing or under construction, which is highlighted in blue. Approved industrial project is highlighted in green. Yellow is in process industrial project, the application that's been in process. And then there's the orange, which is the preliminary review application. And you kind of work through these colors, and you can kind of see that most of the sites, someone has either submitted or it's been in process already. So most of the sites in the city, as you look through these maps, someone has investigated or submitted an application. The middle part, this is a part of a specific plan. There's a development agreement. So this one, unless if they follow through with their development agreement, they would be exempt from the moratorium. And this is the southerly end, and just the same colors, and it kind of denotes what's going on and where projects are in process. And just in terms of the moratorium guidelines, for the moratorium to pass, it does require a 4/5 vote. The process to start would be an initial 45-day period, and it could be extended up to 22 months. Some cities did 45 days, 10 months, and 12 months. So just there's variations you can go about that process. Staff does mention in the staff report that staff does not recommend the moratorium applies to projects that have been already entitled with CEQA. There's about 6 projects already, and typically they've expended a lot of resources and time and to get through the whole process. So that's our suggestion. If you take in all the factor of the formal application, project, and construction, approximately you're talking about 15% of the remaining industrial land in the northern and central area of the city of Paris, and then you're talking about the remaining 35% on the southerly end of Paris. Just want to note that the council should have received 5 letters yesterday and then today. Two is by the LIUNA, the Labor International Union of North America. One letter is from the local chapter, one was from the regional chapter. The essence of the letter is the same. They believe that the city has stringent guidelines for CEQA review. They believe that allowing projects to proceed provides a significant amount of jobs for our region and for people, for construction workers in Paris. There was a letter by Mike Nagar. The essence of his comment is that we have strict CEQA guidelines, and the fact that he felt that if we pass a moratorium, it would send a message to the development community that we're not business friendly. That's from his perspective in his letter. The last letter is from the National Association of Industrial and Office Parks, from the Inland chapter. All the comment letter has a similar theme. One of their theme is CEQA is stringent in the city of Paris. They believe that a lot of the industrial projects have taken on additional infrastructure improvements to help the city's storm drain improvements, and plus the fact that they said that they contributed towards other amenities such as the Veterans Memorial. And so they would like the city not to proceed with a moratorium. In conclusion, staff requests the council discuss potentially adopting a moratorium and providing direction to staff for a possible urgency moratorium if the council wishes to do so, but to draft the ordinance before fifth vote. But also staff seeks further direction regarding the criteria to include in the moratorium beyond what staff suggested if there's any further feedback. And lastly, if the council proceeds with the moratorium, staff recommends that it be brought back by March 8th, just to give sufficient time for staff to do the research and address some of the comments that may be expressed this evening. I'm here to answer any question. Our attorney's here to answer any technical question about the moratorium.
Thank you. Okay, council, before I call for public comment, anybody have any questions for clarification?
I do have a question for clarification.
Okay.
In December, I did bring up, to bring a study, comprehensive study with regards to health and environmental. Is that tied to the moratorium, or if the moratorium doesn't pass, can that go on?
It can go on, and it typically would be tied to the moratorium. It just takes some work. It just for it to happen.
Right, but they're not tied together, are they?
If I may,
Go ahead.
Pro Tem, if the moratorium moves forward, it would be covered under the moratorium. However, the council has the discretion to direct staff to continue with the air quality or health risk assessment at any time. So it can be done separately.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open up the public comment. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir. Nanette Placentia.
Hello, thank you, council members and mayor. I just hope that you do vote yes for this and you urgently vote on it. I think it's a great idea for the city, especially those families, all the children, the thousands of residents that live on the north side. I am one of them. We are drowning in warehouses on the north side, and I think that it's time to put a pause on them. So the council could come up with maybe a solution or a new idea of the leftover land that is still sitting there to maybe put other things there in its place other than warehouses, since we already have only a little bit of land in that area left. I'm hoping that maybe other things could be put there on the north side for all the residents that live there. It's frustrating living on the north side. Driving down the street, going to the parks, dropping our kids off at school, their warehouses are surrounding us. And it's bad. Of course, we already know the pollution is already there, especially with the trucks that are going to be in that area. And I think that really does need to be looked at, because we got, thousands of families in that area. And I think this is something that seriously needs to be voted on as soon as possible so that pause could happen and we can come up with some solutions or something different to be put in that area, because the north side really does need this. We're drowning and we're asking for your help. And maybe, this is what needs to be done just right now so we can, all get together and come up with different ideas for the rest of the land that's there, and put other things there in its place. It'd be great if, that could happen for all the families and the people who live on that north side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeanette Bernabe.
Okay, good evening. I'm going to try this one more time. So good evening, everyone. My name is Janet Bernabe. I'm a resident of the city of Paris. I'm also the organizing director for the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice. I'm speaking today upon in favor of business item 12A for many reasons. As I mentioned, I am a resident. I brought my mom today. I have my sisters calling in via Zoom because there is a big concern in our community. I see this as my home. I lived here for so long. My daughter's 15 years old. She's gone through the Val Verde Unified School District, and I want to make sure that we do leave a thriving community for her after, all these warehouse developments, seeing that we only have 15% land still available in the north and 35% in the south. My question is, when is enough enough? Once that land is already used up, that's remaining 15%, are we going to start using other lands for industrial use? That does not mean fair at all. There is something else that we can bring into our communities. Can be anything else from a warehouse. It could be, schools. We don't have a community college. I attended Moreno Valley College, and then I went to Cal State Fullerton, but I came back to my community because this is home for me. I'm just going to go ahead and read off a couple of statistics that I found on the Cal viral screen, and specifically just for my census tract on here. The pollution burden is 90% on the central of Paris, which I live there, and my mother does too. And just looking at it out of 100, we're at 90 on the pollution burden on that end. Particular matter 2.5, we're at 53. Traffic 76. What else do we have here? We have asthma 62, low birth weight 57, and cardiovascular disease 87. This is really concerning for our community, especially our communities of color, seeing how the pandemic hit us really hard last year. And I must say, a lot of the community members passed away because we had pre-existing conditions. And that was my father. My father passed away at the beginning of last year. Sorry. So I urge you today for my closing remarks to think about a long-run term conditions that we're putting for our community, the burdens and influx of warehousing and the pollution that we bring to our communities. Our community deserves better. Our children deserve better. My nieces deserve better. My daughter deserves better. And that's why I'm here today, not just as organizer for CCAJ, but I've been in community for many years. And I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. There is an urge of community members that feel that their concerns have not been met or heard. And that's why I'm here to represent myself, my family, and my community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Natalia Bernabe.
Sorry, this is my mom. Do we have a translator? Because we do have Spanish speakers today. If not, I can translate.
Well, we can't, it has to be a staff member. We have our translator here?
Do you want me to translate or Malcolm? Or Marisela?
He can't do it. They can't do it.
Would
You
you
wanna
like-
do
It can be a community member as long as, and then the Brown Act requires that you give them up to twice as long to do
Find a
translation.
community member?
Yes.
Okay.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Natalia Bernabé. Vengo en representación de nuestra ciudad Perris para mejorías de nuestros hogares.
Hi, good evening. My name is Maria Bernabe, and I'm here today to address issues to better our community.
Vengo a favor de esta situación, el 12A, para mejoría de nuestra ciudad, para que tengamos mejoría para nuestros hijos. Necesitamos una ciudad mejor para tener una solución mejor para nuestros hijos, por decir que tengamos mejorías, un buen colegio o unos buenos hospitales, porque para ello, si siguen progresando, teniendo en esta ciudad más...
So good evening. I'm here in favor of 12A and overall to better our community. And she's going to go a little bit more in depth. She was speaking too quick. I'm not a professional translator. Sorry.
¿Cómo se llama? ¿Cómo se llama? Warehouse. Si tenemos más warehouse, tendríamos una situación que nuestros hijos terminarían solamente a la high school y de allí ya no tendrían oportunidades porque aquí no tenemos colegios.
She's talking about in reference to having all their opportunities for our high school students, especially when they come out of high schools. We want to be able to give them a different opportunity instead of just a warehouse job.
Y para esto, lo que harían los muchachos terminando su high school, tendrían que trabajar para tener su mejoría de su situación económica y estarían en ese problema de solo trabajar y no progresar y no ser unas personas profesionales porque tienen que salir fuera a otros lados donde haya mejoría de escuelas como colegios y aquí no tenemos.
In reference to providing community college, something else for our youth so they can better their lives and be able to economically be able to take care of themselves.
Bueno, espero que entiendan las personas que son ciudadanas de este estado para que tengamos mejorías en nuestro progreso y cada uno de nosotros tengamos empeño de tener una vida mejor, porque caemos en una situación que tendríamos más tráfico, más situaciones difíciles para nuestros hijos, que no tengan una situación mejor en el futuro por traer tantas situaciones como no tener oportunidades y tener que continuar trabajando el mínimo.
Okay, I'm going to try to wrap that up. So overall, she wants to make sure that the community, the youth especially, that has a stability in themselves so they can better their lives in their long run.
Las personas encargadas de esta situación espero que comprendan nuestra situación como padres de familia, nuestras mortificaciones también, porque es importante también para cada uno de nosotros que vivimos en esta ciudad, poner un progreso para nuestros hijos, que sea un progreso para toda la comunidad y no nomás la comodidad de unas personas que quieran su mejoría de progresar económicamente, teniendo más trabajos bajos para nuestras familias. Y es importante para nosotros saber que tenemos alcaldes que nos respaldan, porque también pagamos en esta ciudad nuestros impuestos de nuestras casas y también todo aquello que sea lo posible para progresar.
I'm sorry, as I mentioned, I'm not a translator, but overall as well, she just wants to make sure that our community progresses, and as our leaders, our council, she's looking up to you to make the right decision, because we do want to see our community progress, especially our youth, and all these burdens that we've been having on the long run.
Bueno, les doy gracias por admitir mi día, mi tarde, que estén con bien y espero en Dios que estemos cada día cada uno mejor progresando en esta ciudad. Gracias.
Thank you. So just want to thank everybody. God bless everybody, and to hopefully progress in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, I'm not a translator.
And, you know, we do have translating headsets if your mother would like to use one, Janet. We do have translating headsets if your mother would like to use one. Anybody else?
Maria Mares.
Maria, are you here?
Maria Mares.
Did she hand that in person?
Yes, in person.
Okay, the next one, who's the next?
Erica Rico.
Eric?
Erica Rico.
Oh, Erika. Who's next?
Luis Medina.
Good evening, esteemed Paris City Council members, Mayor. I would like to thank you for the opportunity for me to speak today. My name is Luis Medina, and I've been a resident in Paris for about 12 years now, and I'm speaking in favor for business item 12A. Growing up here, I saw less warehouses, and I noticed that the air quality was a lot better. Traffic was almost not non-existent, but it was a lot less semis. And over the past 12 years, I've seen an increase in smog and air pollution, and just seeing a lot of land development that could have been used as they were saying for like colleges, or like other places for the youth to go do art and stuff, like things that could progress our community. And instead we're using it for these warehouses that yes, they bring jobs, but with those jobs comes pollution, not only to the soil but also to the air quality. And also, like they were saying, Janet and her mom, what's it called? Pretty much like you don't get any you just have those jobs. When I like got my first job at 19, that's all I did. I worked at a warehouse for 6-7 years. I tried to go to college and work a full-time job, but I couldn't because it was just too much working overtime, trying to go to school like with 3 hours of sleep. And so I just dropped out. I just was like, you know what? I'd rather work at a warehouse because that's what's paying my bills and that's what's doing everything for me. But now I'm like looking at the environment in a whole different manner, and how we can work with the environment and make job security while also cleaning up our city, and utilizing the land to the best of its ability. Like trying to plant more trees, trying to like create systems where like over by San Jacinto where it's always getting flooded and stuff, like you can like utilize nature to like create ways so that floodings don't happen, and that it creates better ambience for everybody in the communities, not just a bunch of warehouses that are just like like an eyesore. And I just don't have too much to say, but I would just like to say that I hope that you guys are in favor of halting building any more warehouses, and take into consideration the community and like the air quality and stuff, and just like everything that's kind of like it's trickling down, and it's gonna just only progress more and more as we build more and more. So just thinking eco-consciously and building, using like all kinds of like hempcrete and stuff, like just different kinds of things and manners to just make Paris a lot more cleaner and a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all.
IT, do you have anybody?
Yes, sir. We have Natalie Ortiz.
Natalie Ortiz, if you're online, you get 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Natalie Ortiz. I'm speaking in favor of business item 12A on the agenda to adopt an industrial project moratorium. This moratorium is a much needed space to make room for studies related to air quality and as to whether we should continue to allow industrial development or buildings of a particular size. And economic development tends to be a buzzword that industrial developers throw into their reports and presentations as a tactic to persuade cities that we can only achieve economic development through these industrial developments that boast to create jobs. But research shows that many of these jobs don't even pay living wages, and poverty levels remain high in this region, in the Inland Empire, particularly among Black and Latino communities. And these are the types of factors that need to be seriously looked at, studied, and comprehended. And as was highlighted earlier, this is creating an informal school to warehouse pipeline, since our youth are only given the options of warehouse jobs. We need to keep this moratorium so that the people who actually perform the labor to keep a warehouse economy going aren't simply looked at in terms of numbers within economic analyses, but rather should be looked at as actual people whose health and welfare are severely impacted by industrial developments. This moratorium will make room for the city to look at alternatives to industrial projects, because there are other ways to achieve economic development that do not contribute to the declining quality of life of people and the cities they reside in that are already heavily saturated with industrial developments. So please adopt this industrial project moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, IT?
Yes. We have Yvette Macias.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Foremost,
You need to unmute your, there you go.
okay, sorry. Let me start over. I just want to point out that it's very concerning that the city, which is majority Spanish speakers, does not have a translator present during their city council. I hope you do remedy this to allow all community members to participate. With that, my name is Yvette Macias and I am a resident of Paris. I'm here tonight to support item 12A on the agenda. I applaud Councilmember Corona for bringing this to the forefront. While I would have preferred that the news of tonight's item have been shared with the community earlier, disseminated much more than it was so that more people had an opportunity to attend, I do appreciate that the discussion is before us today. In thinking about a potential moratorium for the city of Paris, many thoughts come to mind. There's been much discussion within the world and particularly in our state about climate change. Much is being proposed and done, including California's goal to have an electrical system that is completely carbon-free by 2045, or even LA's LA 100 groundbreaking plan to have a 100 renewable energy supply within the next 15 to 20 years. So with that, I have to ask, what is Paris doing to champion these goals? Are you requiring developers to provide EV charging stations? Are you asking them to prioritize the use of electric big rigs? What are you doing to promote the use of a greener energy with the goods that are transported from and to Paris? What I see is a council that is actually moving backwards. A council that is not just allowing but creating a hotspot for pollution, a designated area where developers can come in and dump whatever environmental problem they don't want to see in their backyards, and a future council that will have to find solutions to the environmental consequences in the next 10 to 20 years to a community you have left vulnerable. And if things continue the way they do, this is just the beginning of the number of issues that will plague our city. So I ask you to please stop before it is too late. Support this moratorium and an end to any more warehouse developments. Leave the remaining land open for other projects that will actually benefit the community. Learn from other municipalities and pave the way for a healthy and clean city. Paris has the potential to be a regional leader. All you need is to listen to your community, not outside groups who clearly only care about money, claim to be local when in actuality they will not give Paris a second thought. And I also wanted to respond to that comment made by your staff about giving the perception that Paris is not developer friendly. These developers are going to find any reason for you to support their multi-$1 million projects. So don't let them convince you. Push back and respond with Paris is community friendly. These developers don't care about our city. Let's hope our council members and staff do. I once heard a city council member from Louisiana say the following: a politician is worried about their next election. A statesman is worried about the state of the world. I urge you to put on your statesman hat and think about the future of Paris. Vote yes for this moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, IT?
Yes, we have Bill Blankenship.
Bill, if you're on, you got 3 minutes.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. NEOP Inland Empire is the Commercial Real Estate Development Association. As you know, the City of Paris has carefully planned, and positioned itself to be a strong partner with the good movements industry. In the northern section of the city, your planning team has worked with the industry to develop the Paris Valley Commerce Center specific plan. The plan has allowed the city to develop its extensive infrastructure network, which is a model for other cities to replicate. In addition, the industry routinely develops critical infrastructure beyond the project's footprint in an effort to assist the city with its long-term goals. The industry contributes to the city's Art and Public Places program, as well as the local park system. In addition, members of the industry have contributed to local shelters, food programs, annual Christmas toy giveaway, and have played a large role in the creation of the impressive Veterans Memorial Plaza, futsal court at Triple Crown Park. The industry is a proud and valuable partner in your community. NEOP Inland Empire strongly believes that the City of Paris is a model for partnership between local government and working with your industry partners. The adoption of a moratorium would hurt years of progress and place a great burden on your industrial partners in your ability to complete the city's extensive infrastructure plan. A moratorium is an action of last resort when all other planning options have failed or a community is without planning tools. On behalf of the industry, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to make comments on this important issue, and we are opposed to item 12A. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the industry this evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
Anybody else, IT?
Yes, sir. Elizabeth Burnaby.
Elizabeth, if you're on, you got 3 minutes. Elizabeth, if you can hear me, you need to unmute yourself. There, Elizabeth, you need to unmute yourself. Oh, looks like we lost her now.
We have Diana Medina.
Diana Medina, if you're on, you got 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Diana Medina. I'm a resident of Paris, actually own a home here. I'm here to show my support for the proposed industrial project new moratorium that would prohibit industrial projects over 50,000 square feet from being built for the time being. Discussions on how warehouses are affecting the communities in which they're being built should absolutely be had. The effects are being reported on more frequently because the data does exist. In fact, it's only a Google search away for those of us who care enough to look for it. For instance, in my most recent Google search, I found an article titled "Smog for Kids is Bad, Smog for Grown-ups Might Be Worse," published December of 2021 on the Orange County Register. That said the following: breathing dirty air alters gene expression in young children in a way that could predispose them to heart disease as adults. And a growing number of studies have linked early exposure to air pollution to other potentially lifelong illnesses, including obesity, developmental delays, ADHD, autism, preterm birth, birth defects, end quote. In another portion, they stated people should be extremely concerned about the pollution levels in the Inland Empire and the risks to children living there. In the short term, air pollution inflames children's airways and affects their ability to fight off infection, leading to more frequent asthma attacks and respiratory illnesses. In the long term, those children are more likely to develop heart disease, cancer, emphysema, and other health-related problems as adults, end quote. So again, we have the data, the information to make the best choices for this community, so why aren't we making them? It's great that we're getting more parks in Paris and the schools are being renovated, but what's the point when we're sending our kids outside to breathe in the toxic air that we've created for them? I'm wondering what will become of this city if its children are going to grow up having health conditions that are very toxic, and they don't need to have them. There's ways to avoid them than working at a warehouse, because that's all the options that we're giving them. We need to place our health over someone else's profit. I'm glad that this moratorium was brought to the table. I'm hoping that the city council members vote in favor, and we really need to start investing in our community in meaningful and healthy ways. I also want to say that I think it's really unfortunate that people want to make judgments about what the community needs, even though they don't live in the community. And I also want to state that all the members that have spoken in favor of this moratorium are people that actually live here. So that's really important to note. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, IT?
Yes, we have Kane Gonzalez.
Kane Gonzalez, you got 3 minutes.
I am speaking in favor of business item 12A. I'm also speaking on behalf of my grandmother, who is a Spanish speaker. When I heard there is no translator, I was very disappointed. The city is a very high in Latino community, and the fact that you guys do not have a Spanish translator is very disappointing. I think it is time that the Paris Council and the mayor listen to the people who voted them in. I'm very disappointed that we see more and more warehouses being built in our city. I think it is time, once again, that you listen to the people that voted you in. So I hope that you guys all listen to us. Many of us are in favor of business item 12A. There's many community members who do not know how to speak up or cannot speak up because of the language barrier. So again, I am in favor of business item 12A. I do hope that the members of the council listen to us. I also did some research on the pollution. We are right now at the pollution level 90% out of 100. For me, that is very worrying. We are building families here, and I believe this is very worrying, and it is because of the warehouses. Traffic is horrible. We're seeing lines of semi-trucks getting off Harley Knox, and I believe it's time that we put an end to this. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you take into consideration the many people who have spoken in favor of item 12A. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, IT?
No, sir.
Circle back to, I think it was Erica or Marina. Are you guys online?
No, sir, but we have someone else.
Okay.
Socorro Arellano.
Okay, we'll take Socorro.
Hi, yes, I'm also a Paris resident. I moved to Paris back in 2005 when we purchased our first home. And I'm also speaking on behalf of my mother, who is also older. And we saw the difference now with all these warehouses. And I'm in favor also of 12A, and I think we should have more things that in place in other to help all of these people, especially like more senior citizen centers for them to distract themselves. Because too many warehouses, and then the streets are not as smooth. You don't drive down the street smoothly anymore. It's like all these bumps and all these holes and all these, just covering up all these holes all the time. I've seen it on Dunlap, San Jacinto, on Paris Boulevard. So instead of fixing our city, in reality, we're not fixing it. We're not taking care of our city. And that's the reason a lot of people move into Paris, because it was peaceful. You know, and I hopefully that you guys would take that in consideration. And going back to the what Cain, I think it was Cain that said that, yeah, we do need more translators, because my mom doesn't speak English either. So a lot of the community members are Latinos, and maybe they're not getting the message in their language. And you know, I hope that we can resolve this quickly.
Thank you. Anybody else, IT?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to close public comment. And council, anybody like to speak? Councilwoman Alba?
Thank you, Mayor. And so a great thank you to all our residents who participated in public comment today. Muchísimas gracias para todos los que participaron en comentarios públicos. For the record, can I have staff clarify what's happening with our translator today?
Yes, Councilwoman Nava, I was informed that the translator did not show up today due to COVID-related reasons.
Okay.
And that was unexpected, but we will make sure that that's taken care of, whether it's through Zoom or in person for all future meetings.
Thank you. And I just wanted to clarify that because we are a community that's largely multilingual, and we just had a presentation about that today. So we honor and respect that. And I know we have a translator who normally sits in the office right next to me. However, as city manager has mentioned that today, when we had a great number of participation, specifically folks speaking in Spanish, we didn't have our translator today. So for the record, we appreciate your patience and flexibility for tonight. Moving forward, we'll be sure that that's not the case, that we have a backup to the translator, because it is extremely important that all residents here in the city of Paris can participate, and not only participate, but understand what's happening. And for the record, I am bilingual, so I understand Spanish, so no need for translation on my end, but just wanted to make sure that everyone is able to understand all and every speakers in whatever language they're speaking. So the residents have spoken loud and clear today. So again, thank you so much for coming out, and a great thank you to my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem, for introducing this item to be agendized tonight. I'd like, if I can, if IT could go ahead and pull up on the screen the moratorium guidelines that were implemented, and I'll guide you through, Kenneth.
Are you referring to this screen, what other cities have done?
No, the one with the bullet points. There we go. This is it. So I want to go ahead and redirect attention to bullet point number 3, where it mentions that staff does not recommend moratorium apply to projects with entitlements. Developer has expended a significant amount of resources towards CEQA. So this is significantly important because as somebody who reviews the agenda and has received several CEQA reports, there have been instances where these projects have a significant impact on the environment, and there are no mitigating factors to combat it, and yet these projects have been approved. I don't know if staff would like to add to that, but either way, to verify if this information is factual. But either way, what I am trying to arrive to is that I don't believe that there's a purpose for the CEQA reports to be expended and paid by developers when at the end of the day, the results of that are overridden. So I'd like us to reconsider point number 3 and the moratorium, and moving on to point number 4, there has been approximately 15% of remaining industrial land in PVCC and 35% in the southern Paris. As was noted, these projects have been passed and approved for a while, and I wish this conversation would have come about sooner than that. And then given that regionally, our area is warehouse central, warehouse empire, as it's been titled before. So we house more than 1/5 of the largest warehouses across the country. And those are all the comments I have for this moment, and I will pause for now. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to start out by really giving a heartfelt thank you to all the speakers for coming out. For any of the Spanish speakers, some things that happen. I know we always have a translator here, but hopefully next time, as our city manager stated, that we will take care of that. I know several of our staff members are very fluent in Spanish. But I do want to start out by thanking the speakers regarding this topic. I've heard you, and I do take your comments very seriously. I want to thank our staff for bringing this item up in a timely manner. I do want to clarify that this item, even though I brought it up, it was brought to me by residents in our community that had concerns. I brought up bringing up a health study, and then they said, hey, it doesn't make sense to have a health study if we're just going to kind of keep approving these projects. So can we put this stuff on hold? And, I do bring your concerns here with me as I do represent you all. It is apparent to large portions of our city that we have an oversaturation of industrial projects that are slowly starting and in many cases have already encroached into our neighborhoods. I will fully agree that several, but not all of these projects do bring some impacts, as in infrastructure and ongoing tax benefits, development impact fees. But what I and many of our residents are concerned about is whether this growth in industrial projects are also bringing negative impacts that are affecting our residents' health. Our pollution is higher than our neighboring cities that don't have an overabundance of industrial projects. Asthma rates are higher, especially for children. Cancer-causing pollutants are higher than our neighboring cities. air quality is worse than that of our neighbor cities, and these negative impacts seem to correlate in locations that are closer to our industrial areas, and it also seems to correlate higher in our areas that have a lower income levels. So now whether these are actually caused by the warehouse development and the industrial development, I personally don't know, but it sure is kind of pretty a crazy coincidence that they seem to correlate in areas where there is high levels of industrial projects going on. Now every project that does submit, as Councilwoman Nava was stating, they do submit an environmental impact report, but they all say the same thing, that the project would bring unavoidable negative impacts to the surrounding area. So I want to bring the discussion about taking a temporary pause until we could complete a comprehensive study as they correlate all together, right? Because if one project has a study, how does that impact with the project right next door and the 10 other projects surrounding that area? I think, especially tonight, we all just approved adopting an environmental justice element for the city that asked us to basically confirm that we're going to reduce pollution and improve air quality in disadvantaged areas. So here we are. We have an opportunity to do this. So we just adopted an environmental justice element saying that we're going to help reduce pollution, and now we have an opportunity to just pause it, which is what a moratorium is. It's a temporary pause. So I do want to clarify that. It's not saying we're going to stop everything forever. It just allows us to come together and find out what are the issues and how can we mitigate those issues. Okay. So with that said, a moratorium would really allow us to focus on finding ways to reduce pollution and improve air quality. It would be difficult to do this as we are trying to, at the same time, approve industrial projects while we're having a study. So I mean, I kind of think about it as like a kid has asthma, and you're trying to treat him for his asthma, but his parents are still smoking in the same household. It just doesn't make sense. So it's just putting a pause and say, hey, stop the project right now until we can find out. Until we can find out what the issues are and how we can make them better. So I just do want to clarify, though, it is going to be a temporary. And it gives us a chance to find out what's going on. And as soon as the moratorium is lifted, we can look at certain projects that we have addressed and find out how we could better make them more environmentally friendly to our community. But now, the moratorium would be the first in our city, but it certainly wouldn't be the first in the community, right? Chino and Colton and Jurupa Valley, they've all done it before. So we could actually steal what worked for them and what didn't work for them. And then in the future, we could even streamline some of the projects that seem to not have mitigating any major issues. And at the same time, it's not the first moratorium we've had in our city with regards to anything, right? We did something similar with the cannabis dispensaries. And we have more warehouses or industrial projects than we have cannabis dispensaries. But we seem to put a pause on cannabis dispensaries, but yet the industrial projects that might seem to bring more impacts to our community, we just keep approving and improving them. Now there are certain zones that they are zoned for, but when we start approving them outside of that zone, now as some of the speakers stated, some of the land's running out. I remember sitting there as a resident and watching some of our council members say, hey, there's so much land out there. Well, now there's not, right? We're running out. It's 15%, and we seem to base a lot of our industry in our city based on that, while some of our neighbor cities seem to be okay without it. Now, I'm not going to say we haven't got any benefit from it, with the park stiff and all the other stuff, but I mean, when the property runs out, when there's no more land, then what? And then I know what's going to happen. They're going to start building outside of that area, getting closer and closer to the homes, right? So this would just kind of put a pause on that. I think not passing a moratorium would send a message that we do know the data, we understand the impact on it, but we're just choosing to ignore it. So I'm definitely in favor of it. Obviously, I brought it in there. I want to thank all the speakers for bringing it in. All speakers, just to clarify, as stated before, they are from the city of Paris, and I don't think any of the ones that opposed it were from the city of Paris. So that are all my comments for right now. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman Rab?
Hear me? Yes. Colleagues, I'd like to thank all the speakers for taking time out of their busy Tuesday evening to come and speak. I had a few questions for Mr. Fung, just given some of the comments. If we could bring back the map of the north section of Paris.
Do you see the screen?
Share it on my end.
There you go.
The Oregon would stop, I think it was 15% of the land that's currently zoned industrial from being built with warehousing.
Yes, that's correct.
15% left out of the total full area of the north.
Correct.
15%. Is there any way we can overlay the airport, the ALAC Air Force area, or the ALAC area?
I do have a quick extra slide I can share with you. I had to take it into two parts just because it's so large. So this is an overlay of just all the industrial zone land. With the airport, it's kind of highlighted outside the gray area. And then this is the portion south of Ramona Expressway to Placentia Avenue.
Okay. And the land in orange is the airport landing area?
The diagonal is the accident potential zone. And then all the other like yellow, orange, green, those are different airport overlay zones. So there's this density restriction, and in those areas, even the outside yellow is there's no more than, if you were to do single family, you couldn't do more than 6 units per acre.
And that would preclude most commercial uses, definitely any sort of community college or anything along those lines?
You could do some limited commercial in those areas, but you couldn't do like a hospital or a college or just more high intense commercial uses.
We didn't hear your last question, David.
Yellow area that abuts the 215?
Can you repeat that? I didn't catch the whole question.
Yes. The area that you could have limited commercial, that would be the outer area, the light yellow area, which is near the frontage road and the 215 freeway?
Correct.
Okay. And then bring over the map for the south end of Paris. Have the overlay for the zone for the Paris Valley Airport?
Yes, the zone is, we didn't have a very comprehensive, this is the overlay, but all the areas in the dark and light gray where there's an overlap, there's a restriction in those areas for pretty much commercial, or it's limited commercial, and you can't really do residential in the dark and light gray area.
It encompasses the 35% of available industrial land in the southern part of Paris?
It does. I have to overlap it. There's just too much information, so it couldn't generate an exhibit that kind of really shows what you're looking for. You just have to kind of visualize the exhibit in the presentation and this exhibit.
Thank you, Mr. Fung. I have a question for either Mr. Reyna or Ms. Miramontes. I know it's a long set of data. I know in 2017, at the urging of Mayor Vargas and the approval of the full council, we imposed a DIF fee, development impact fee, for all industrial projects. I believe it was initially 94 cents per square foot, and then we upped it up in the last year or so to 97 cents per square footage. Do we have any data as to how much we've collected in that almost 5-year period in terms of fees that will be going to our parks in the area?
We don't, but I can tell you it's in the millions, and that's in addition to the park DIF fee for industrial buildings.
And this DIF fee, yes, thank you. And this DIF fee, we were able to utilize to build restrooms at, I believe, Paragon, Copper Creek, Morgan, we extended, and then I think it was Rotary Park in the last 4.5, almost 5 years.
Yes, we've used funds for park improvements.
Okay. Once again, I'd like to thank all the speakers for coming and sharing their opinions. I really value your opinion. At this moment, however, I think that we should continue as a council to judge each project by its merits, judge each project on a case-by-case basis to make the determination as to whether or not it impacts the city of Paris. I know over the last 7 years that I've been on the council, we've turned projects down, we've approved certain projects, planning commissions approved certain projects. But in the interim, I think as a city, we differ from some of the surrounding cities that were listed on the moratorium list because one, we've made sure that the warehouse development, industrial development have paid their fair share to uplifting the residents in the city of Paris in terms of initiating the park diff fee and ensuring that they pay toward our development of our parks, ensuring that they go forward with the development of infrastructure, come forward to the city. For instance, there were the industrial development off of.
We lost you, Dave. The industrial development.
Yes, on Redlands and 7th Street. So initially, the developer was slated to build 4 approximately 500,000 to 600,000 square foot industrial buildings. The developer, starting in 2019, going into 2020, wanted to consolidate one of the buildings. The council, we agreed to work with the developer provided that a rail line be built off the rail line that goes into Case Road into the industrial development to mitigate some of the traffic issues. So I do believe that our city differs from many of the other cities, Chino, Colton, which has been an industrial city for probably over years, and some of the other cities in ensuring that industrial developers pay their fair share, ensuring that there are setbacks, park trails, and other amenities that help our residents in the city of Paris. And I think another thing too, they do come with negative impacts. There are more trucks on the road, but I do believe a lot of the impacts come from other communities as well. I know Menifee is slated to approve several industrial projects along Ethonac on the southern portion of Ethonac. And then the county of Riverside has approved several industrial projects off of Harvell without the same mitigating factors that this council, past and present, have imposed over the last few years. I think this does not mean that, in my opinion, that we are going to approve all industrial projects. I don't believe the city has rezoned a land for industrial besides the trucking area that was to mitigate some of the trucks late last year since I believe it was August of 2018 with the land just north of Markham on Paris Boulevard. That's now an Amazon facility. I think we should continue to judge each project by its merits, to continue to hold the developers accountable to improving our community, to ensure that each project benefits the community. And I think what's missing here is that throughout the last few years, we've developed point of sale warehousing where we've exceeded our tax revenue. And in 2020, we were able to pay $14.6 million of pension debt and completely wipe that out. I think a lot of people focus on the negative of Paris when in fact we are the most financially sound city in Riverside County. Out of the 30 or so cities in Riverside County, we're one of the most financially sound. I do believe that we should continue judging each project on a case-by-case basis. I understand with the frustration from the community. I know there's one particular project that has really inflamed the community. And when that project eventually comes to the council, I think we should vet it, we should have questions asked. I do believe a strict moratorium would send a message not only to the industrial development, many of whom have legs in industrial development, and the residential development field, that the city of Paris are not open. We create policy on a whim. We create policy on passion. We don't objectively look at the fact and go a case-by-case basis. I understand many residents indicated that Paris is a lower income community. I don't see it that way. This is my home. Both of my parents are buried at the Paris Valley Cemetery. And I do believe that there are other communities with higher income levels that have industrial development as well, including Fontana, Rancho Cucamonga, Ontario, East Vale, where now homes are going for close to $1 million, parts of Rialto where the homes are going up in price. So I think we should continue to go a case-by-case basis. And I cannot support a strict moratorium at this time. But I would like to know I would be in favor of moving forward on a study to see whether or not the warehouse development is inflaming some of the conditions that several of the speakers have alluded to throughout the course of the night. But we have no causation showing that the warehouse development has caused these issues, and it's not other extenuating factors. So given all the factors I've listed, I cannot move forward on a warehouse moratorium of this.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilwoman Rogers?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to commend all of the speakers that have come out tonight and expressed their views. I also want to thank all of the labor unions that have sent their comment letters because we're very proud of our labor community, and many of them are Paris residents as well. I also am a proud Paris resident. I've been here almost 50 years, and this is my 23rd year on the city council. During that time, I've always been very prudent about evaluating each and every project based on its own merits. And with every situation, there's always going to be pros and cons. But being elected by the residents, you have to make wise decisions that are in the best interest of the entire community. And Paris has always been a business-friendly city. And to place a moratorium on all industrial projects over 50,000 square feet would distract from that image. It also would prevent future revenue collections that have helped us beautify and improve our parks, fund art programs, a college program, prepay our pension liability, and bring thousands of jobs to the city. Therefore, at this time, I cannot support the proposed moratorium, but I will support a separate health study. And I think it's important to evaluate each and every project on its own merits and make wise decisions based on the facts presented of every single project. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have more? You want me to talk first? So I don't want to repeat everything that Councilwoman Rogers and David Rapp, I appreciate their comments as well as the community as well. But when we up here, we represent the entire city of Paris. There was 8 speakers that showed up. 8 was available to speak, but that doesn't represent our 80,000 residents that we have here. We do take case-by-case study of each of these warehouses that come on. Since I've been here since 2016, I think there's only been 2 warehouses or 2 projects that we rezoned as a council. The vast majority of all these projects that have come up during our tenure here have been pre-approved many years before we got, the majority of this council has existed. It just happened that they come to fruition during our terms. And if they do come back to us, it's because there may be a change order to the project. And in one case, as Councilman Rabb mentioned, it literally got reduced. Instead of, I don't know what it was, 4 or 5 buildings, they're down to 3 buildings and reduced the actual total number of square footage. So that was a good thing in essence, but that had to come back to us to get approved. If we had denied it, they could have easily gone back to the original approved plan, which would have been 4 or 5 warehouses and a lot more square footage. The 2 that have been passed, to my recollection, since I've been on, they didn't pass unanimously because we thoroughly go through all these projects. I have always stated that I personally do not support a rezone, but you can never say never because there's 2 reasons for me, personally speaking up here. And one is that if there are community benefits, which have been a big factor in the warehouses that have been coming across lately, to the community, and the community wants it, and they tell me that they want it, then I'm going to overdo the rezone. If the project is in line of the March Air Reserve Base accident potential zone, then again, and I keep repeating this a lot of times, we are restricted to what we can build. the planning director showed you on screen, it's not just the middle zone. It feathers out, and there are descriptors for each of those color zones. I try to relocate, with the assistance of staff, an entertainment company that's here, and I couldn't do it. We found a perfect spot up in the north, but in that particular zone, it said no assembly is allowed. Assembly meaning a concert, a gathering of what this venue was going to do. So I lost that one. So it's not just about warehouses either, but we're limited with retail. Another classic example, Ramona Expressway and Paris Boulevard, the four corners. 3 of 4 are built out. The fourth one is not, because it's in that accident potential zone, and it's listed for sale, commercial. Well, it's not commercial. It's commercial, but it had to be rezoned because you cannot build commercial in that zone. Now, we can override that authority, the ALUC, the Area Land Use Authority, but then we start encroaching on the base, and then the federal government starts coming down on us. I'm not going to be the mayor on watch, and I hope our council doesn't want to be on watch that shuts that base down. That's 10,000 jobs, $500 billion of revenue into this region that gets acquired through that base. So therefore, that's why we have those restrictions that limit us of what we can build up in the north end. When you go to the south end, you have the Skydive Airport. It's not as vast as the north end, but they do have their restrictions as well. It's been indicated about all the infrastructure that gets built out. The current project that was approved, I don't know when it was approved, the one on 4th Street, or off of Redlands and 4th, south of 4th, 1 block south. When all is said and done on that project, they will have invested $40 million in infrastructure for this city. That means newer streets, sidewalks, gutters, drainage. Case Road is horrific when it comes to intersections with the train signals. That little tiny bridge that crosses over the river. All that is going to be fixed up, and it's going to benefit the community. Mr. Corona, you are pushing so hard for your bathrooms in your parks, and that's being done by money that's being developed or donated, not even donated, fees being created by warehouses. Without that, that couldn't have been done. Councilman Rab, yeah, we paid off $14 million in an unfunded pension liability. That's unheard of. We are they're under 5 cities, I believe it is, in California have been able to do that. And good old little Paris here, we're one of them. I live here. I live in the north end. I hear the folks, but we have to look at everything in totality, not just what just one little group might want to say. And I do agree, the folks that have come today, the 8 speakers, and I agree, along with Councilman, or Mayor Pro Tem, excuse me, yeah, we do need an independent study, perhaps, on the pollution, because I'd like to see the results of that too, because on the north end, in particular, I know, we have an abundance amount of cars that are parked there because we have multiple families that live in our residence. So I really would like to see the numbers of what is causing all this pollution. I'm sure the trucks are doing some, but they also going to have restrictions as we start coming down the line as far as down the years, as far as converting into electric vehicles as well. So that study would be interesting. So with that, I mean, I will end there, and if anybody else has any comments, if not, we'll entertain a motion to approve this. Councilwoman Nava?
Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity. Now that I've heard my colleagues just share their thoughts, I thank them as well. I think it's really important that you have a diverse membership here on council, and we don't always agree on policies, and that's a beautiful thing. That's democracy. One thing that I will state is that I'm speaking as a resident. I purchased my first home here in Paris, and your public comments that were made by residents here in the city of Paris are not falling on deaf ears for myself. We're being surrounded by warehouses that are being developed, and if there's one thing that I would strongly urge is just to consider what we have control here in the city of Paris. Yes, there are restrictions, and not only as a council member, but as a resident, it's frustrating to hear that folks making decisions such as the Planning Commission and even on council are looking to ways to educate our residents, I think that's a little bit misleading because we have open land and the industrial and warehouse development is a really hot market right now, and that's a fact. However, dispensaries were also able to come up into this industrial area because it is limited commercial, and I verified with staff. So in the map, we do have dispensaries located throughout this PVCC area. So it's just one thing to be mindful and to just be, considerate of urban development here in the city of Paris. Just because it is open land and because there are restrictions doesn't mean we need to have an industrial area come into that area. And then the rezones, that's something that, if we've already allotted certain area, then why rezone other areas outside of that? And I don't think we've ever revisited the amount of area that has been rezoned. Why didn't we eliminate that from our current PVCC plan or the southern area that is industrial designated? So every city has their industrial area. There's no doubt about the diff we received, the revenue. I'm not arguing that. I still see that there's a lot of potential for us to work with our current industrial and warehouse development centers, logistics centers, where we can create pipelines for furthering job creation, because most of these industrial sectors offer lower entry-level positions. So because the ones that are there, I am in full favor of working with them. They're here. However, I strongly have my reservations as a resident, as a council member, because I hear my community, and I know, given, yes, there's times where we hear only from one sector, but I feel like if you talk to any resident, in my time on council, and as a resident living here, I don't think I've ever heard of a resident who is utterly in favor of warehouses, and they love driving in truck traffic, and they love sitting on the 215. And so those are just my comments, and I apologize if I'm rambling or going off, but this is an area that I'm extremely passionate about. So I just thought I'd want to wrap up some of my comments. So thank you for your time.
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just I do want to thank my colleagues for having a respectful with the discussion, and they did make some great arguments. I do want to kind of point out a couple things though. With the restrooms in the parks, that only happened after we imposed a development impact fee. So it never happened before. I'm not gonna take credit for us because we weren't the only one that voted for it, Mayor. But it didn't happen until you and I got here, along with the council at the time that was in favor for it, along with the arts fee that we put it on them. Because I mean, they were coming anyways. You might as well impose a thing. But that brings me to my next point, that the few areas that we have left, that's now more and more valuable land, which means that we need to start thinking of ways to impose more impact fees on the developers. I know Mr. Medina brought up a great point, having them even bring more trees. I'm not talking about for just their project, but for outside. So for every, I don't want to get specific, but for every, 20,000 square feet, they provide, 2 trees or something. You just feel free to come up with something. But, with the project that we did rezone as well, too, they wanted a quick rezone, and it wasn't until we voted no that then they came back with all this stuff. So at that time, that was the best warehouse, I think, in the whole region, the Duke project. But that didn't happen until we said no to them. With the development by Redlands in front of the post office. Oh, I personally think that's the best.
But you need to clarify, though.
Go ahead.
Because you and I still voted no on that project.
We did.
Even though, because the people said no.
We
They
did.
did not want it.
Yeah, we did.
And we got outvoted.
We did. I'll
Okay.
clarify. I'll give you credit for that. Yes.
All right.
Me and the mayor did vote no on that. Twice we voted no on that. But what came from that, though, when it was voted yes, because they had to concede a lot of stuff, threw a lot of money at it, we got a lot of our residents educated, too.
150.
So free college for a lot of our residents. I think that needs to be the expectation, that we need to set the bar higher than that. So with the one by the post office, they're bringing in the rail line. It's taking off trucks off the road, right? It's actually going to hopefully lower emissions.
Yep.
And they're bringing all this stuff, and they're going to put a walking trail. But a lot of these other projects, they're not. I think what I was saying is that We just need to set the bar higher for the few land that we have, because once that land's done, we can't create more land. You can't build up. You can't expand. You know, so as soon as the land's done, I mean, unless you rezone, and the mayor said on record here that he's against that, except for special things. But, you know, so I think my point was that I completely respect your guys' opinion. You guys made some great arguments. But I am very happy that everyone's considering the having a health and
Study on the health,
study on
yeah.
the health thing.
Sure.
But I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. So I think it's pretty obvious you have 3 against going forward with the moratorium, but I think everybody was in agreement to going forward and having staff work on a pollution study, right?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. If I may, to clarify, we would just like direction from what staff is hearing. You'd like us to proceed, regardless of what the decision is tonight, with air quality and a health risk assessment
Right.
to bring back to the council. If there's anything else you'd like us to study, please direct staff tonight.
Noise
Well,
level.
that's the only thing so far that's a consensus. If anybody wants to bring something up, we have to get a consensus. Did you have something?
Just to add to that same study, if we could also identify the noise level.
Everybody good? Everybody shaking? David shaking? Okay. Noise level?
Yep, got it.
Can we also bring on, I know we approved I guess the previous thing, so, but I think they kind of relates to this. I think we all agree with that. But the environmental justice element, do we have specifics? Because in there it says, you know, bringing down pollution and doing this. Is there other ways of doing it? So can we include that in there? 'Cause so I don't want just the data. I want to get, what are we going to do about the data?
We could also include, as part of the health risk assessments, we can also bring back to you what they called good neighbor guidelines for industrial developments. A lot of cities are also adopting those kind of guidelines, which would fall in line with the environmental justice element. So those are things we can also look into and bring back as here's the starting point for, how to build better industrial developments in light of what the issues are, air quality, noise. So those can also we can also look into those
But
guidelines
this is
as
an
well.
overall study, not just from industrial standings.
This is for industrial development.
Okay, well, I brought up, I'm concerned about the numbers, in particular in the north end, because I have a lot of cars up there for each household. And I don't think the pollution is strictly just on trucks. It's coming from household vehicles as well, too. It's also coming from neighboring cities, whether it's a truck, whether it's a car. So that health study has to be an aggregate of everything, not just light industrial projects.
Well, correct. It
I get a
wouldn't.
consensus on that?
It would
Okay.
have to include cumulative impacts as to, how much of it is from trucks, how much of it is from other developments. So
Right.
we will try to figure out a way how to put these into perspective as far as the different factors for the air quality.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fang, did you have any comments that you'd like to make? I thought I saw you itching to
I
make
think
a
he was
comment.
just telling me, yes.
Oh,
that'll
okay,
work.
got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have your direction. All right. We're not worried about the moratorium for now. We're going to focus on the health environments and the noise levels. Okay, that takes us to item 13, which is our council communication. We'll start with Councilwoman Nava.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, a great thank you to my colleagues. I appreciate today's dialogue, and again to our residents who came out and voiced your concerns. A great thank you. I want to also go ahead and thank our city staff. We participated in the biking event at Lake Paris, which was a great turnout per usual. And that concludes my comments for tonight. Thank you all, and take care.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes, I'd just like to let Brian and the Public Works staff know that on Dunlap between San Jacinto and Nuevo, there's been an awful lot of dumping along the Paris side of Dunlap. As I went to the post office yesterday, I saw tires, mattresses, lawn furniture. So if we could have Public Work go out to Dunlap between San Jacinto and Nuevo and take care of all of that. And then I just want to let my colleagues know I did get a phone call from one of our favorite pastors, Pastor Wade Ford with the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And this past Saturday was his last Saturday here in Terrace. He's been transferred over to San Bernardino as the senior pastor of the Seventh-day Adventist Church over there. And they will be installing an interim pastor until they could find a permanent pastor. So he wanted me to let everyone know. And then lastly, I would just like to acknowledge that we did lose an African-American icon, Jennifer Vaughn Blakely, last week. Miss Blakely was an integral part of the city of Paris some years ago. She worked with myself and Assistant City Manager Darren Matkin to form the first nonprofit for the city of Paris. And she spent many hours helping us get that started. I just would like to acknowledge her, and because of her work in the city of Paris, I'd like to adjourn the meeting in honor of Miss Jennifer Vaughn Blakely. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Rab?
I'll let the public know that at Paris Depot this Friday, January 28th, there'll be the Depot After Dark. The event will start at 3 and go on till 9 o'clock. There'll be various musicians, there'll be drinks, there'll be artists selling their crafts. And that is located at the downtown Paris train station depot. That's the old depot on 4th Street. It's located at 120 West 4th Street in Paris, California, 92570. And that's once again Depot at the Dark, January 28th from 3 to 9. Thank you. That concludes my comments for today.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start out by giving a huge thank you to our sheriffs for months at the request of our residents, and especially my own mother. I've been asking about doing something about what people would call the funeral kids, right? You know, it's always something that was bothering some of our residents, and I'm sure I bothered our city manager with phone calls, say, hey, the kids are out there, and you know, they gave warnings, and finally they made some arrests and publicized it and let the public know that, hey, most of the time, almost all the time, these kids are just out there for frauding our public, and we were able to see that they're coming from miles and miles away to take advantage of our generosity of our community. So thank you, sheriffs. Keep doing it. I saw that you guys did it again. I kind of hope you guys even publicize that more and just keep publicizing and let, you know, to allow our residents know. You know, with the Saturday bike event, I want to give staff a huge thank you for putting on a fantastic event. You know, it's been a while since we had an outdoor event, but the weather was perfect. A little chilly in the beginning, but it was beautiful with the lake just so blue, and residents were having a great time. Just a great event overall, so keep it up. I'm looking forward to the next hike. And then I do want to bring up, some residents have brought up the lack of video on our cable channel. And I think that needs to be a priority because a lot of residents aren't going on Facebook. They're not going online to our website. They get their information for just old-fashioned TV, and if it's on, it's on. And a lot of times they play as a rerun. So I'll get messages, you know, 3 days after the council meeting, like, hey, I just saw you on TV. Can you give me information on such and such that you guys talked about? You know, so if we can make that like a priority. And then obviously I know you know, we don't have control over what happened with the translator, but just kind of plan ahead, make a backup plan for that. And that's all the comments for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make mine real short. I did go to the dedication of the Liberty High School. That's now a new high school for the Paris Union High School District, so that'll help alleviate some of the overcrowding between the schools in that district. I attended a great ceremony for BRAF, that's Building Resilience to African American Families. They had a rites of passage induction ceremony honoring their kings and queens for their successful completion of Phase 1, as well as their parents and staff. I issued everybody a certificate on behalf of the mayor and the city council. That's it for now. Staff, if you can have IT check the issue with Rab's microphone, because I've done many Zooms on my PC, on my desk. I haven't had no problems. We hear Councilwoman Rogers really well, so I don't know. He may have an issue with his PC. I hate to miss some valuable information that he may be trying to transmit. With that, we will go to our 14 City Managers Report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to announce that the city, in partnership with One Call Medical, will be opening a new testing facility. It'll be available for drive-through and walk-ins. It'll be located at Morgan Park at 600 East Morgan Street in Paris. It begins tomorrow morning, open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday. There's a website on the cityofparis.org. You can sign up and get more information. However, the testing site here in Paris, on the campus, Paris campus, City Hall, will still continue to be open, and that is Thursday through Monday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Finally, I'd like to announce that Snow Day will be taking place this Saturday on January 29th next to the Paris Theater off of D Street. The event begins at 10 a.m. and wraps up at about 2 p.m. There will be food, vendors, arts, crafts for kids, and snow. To add to that, the Riverside University Health System will also be setting up a mobile vaccination site for all those eligible to receive a vaccine or a booster shot. And they will be on site from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Snow Day on this Saturday. And they will be administering the Pfizer vaccine. And that is all I have for tonight. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay, I didn't want to bring it up on my comment, but I'm going to piggyback off of yours. So I want to give prompts to Jaime Ochoa, a good friend of mine. He's the one that actually connected me with One Call Medical along with staff to get that secondary testing site up here in Paris. And hopefully, if all goes well, we'll try to push for a third one, which will be on the very south end to help everybody out there. Everybody's coming to Paris. It's not just Paris residents. We are a hot area when it comes to testing. So that being said, I attended a mayor's meeting, and we had a representative from the governor's office there present. I mentioned that they Okay, good evening, everybody. Sorry for the slight delay. We are ready to call to order our joint meeting of the City Council, Successor Agency to the Redevelopment Agency, Public Finance Authority, Public Utility Authority, Housing Authority, Paris